I'm gonna give you the top 5 tricep exercises that you can utilize as an athlete, and we're gonna start right now. What's up, everybody? It's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you're interested in becoming a better athlete, you want to be more explosive, you want to take those weight room gains over to the field, you want to get some bigger biceps and triceps, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a champion. So training the triceps is extremely important for a lot of different sports. And one of the big factors here is that you've got to think about what are our triceps used for. It's a lot of elbow extension, and it's also related to how our shoulder is moving, the stability behind our shoulder when we're talking about overhead work, when we're talking about pressing. A lot of coaches don't want to isolate the triceps. What ends up being a problem then is that if you're not isolating your tricep, you could potentially lead to serious tricep weakness, and then your tricep might not coordinate as well with your lats or with your shoulders, and that can affect how you're locking a jerk out, or how you're doing a push press, or how you're rapidly extending when you're throwing a shot, or if you're pummeling as a wrestler or offensive lineman or defensive lineman. So I believe that this can be really, really beneficial, the triceps, in training them isolated and also training them in positions similar to sporting movements can be extremely, extremely beneficial. Now, one of those movements that I love is, if you've seen some of our past videos, I love the Miracle Grow. And so we'll link the video down below in the description. You can see how the Miracle Grow is done, why I love it so much, but this is a variation of the Miracle Grow. I like utilizing a seated military press bench right here, and I like to use this for that overhead position. So I'm gonna get overhead here. I'm gonna have an open palm grip, and it's really important that we have an open palm grip, because a lot of athletic ventures are with that open palm. Think about shot put, think about, again, wrestling, you have an open palm. Think about if I'm a pitcher, I'm gonna be in an open-handed position. So we wanna get a nice deep stretch all the way through that tricep, and you can start to feel the connection to your thoracic spine. You can start to feel that upper back, and you can start to feel it connected into your deltoid, okay? Into that rear delt, and how that can provide a ton of stability in your shoulder. And so we can get super, super deep stretch into that tricep and then extend overhead. And that's gonna help us when we're looking for shoulder stability. Training that tricep in an overhead position is going to improve shoulder stability. It's gonna improve that lockout position, and it's also gonna transfer to a lot of other various positions in the sporting world. And so I call these the seated Miracle Grow. I like to do this for 4 to 5 sets. And I might do 7 to 9 reps for a couple sets to try and go a little heavier, and then 2 drop sets around 20 reps. So this isn't a typical isolation tricep movement, but one of the things, and I learned this from Charles Poliquin, one of the things that he even has said in the past, that he had said to us in Rhode Island when we were around him, was, at the time, if you could think about a tricep kickback as like a tickle, right? It's tickling your tricep. The dips is a donkey kick right to the nuts, and that's the truth. That's the truth behind the dip. So there's a couple different ways that we can utilize the dip to improve our elbow extension. So again, if we're thinking about the isolated movement and isolating a specific muscle, we have to think, what's the joint function that muscle is impacting? And when we're talking about the shoulder and we're talking about the elbow, a lot of it especially is that elbow extension. So there's a couple ways that we like to utilize dips. I like to use just the old classic standard where we'll sit here, dip, drive up. And then we can start to really focus in, we can alter it here on drop sets, and you can sort of change which head of the tricep that we're really trying to hit. But the big factor behind the dip is that this transfers really, really well. If I see somebody who's on the bench and they struggle with that lockout position, if I see a shot putter, or I see a linebacker who struggles to post up on somebody, if I see a running back who struggles to throw a good stiff arm, I know their triceps aren't that strong because they're not extending with the elbow extension rapidly. So we need to develop serious muscle mass and strength, and then also through contrast methods, train it explosively. So the big key factor with the dips, I think they should be in almost every single program, okay? You utilize dips once a week, you hit it on the V-bar. I typically like the V-bar because some people do get a little bit of a pull on their sternum, but you can sit here. Now we're utilizing here. We might go slow eccentric, okay? And then you come up rapidly as fast as you can. And this is gonna blow up your bench. This is gonna blow up your finish as a shot putter. This is gonna help you extend more as a wrestler, all those various positions. But do this 4 sets of 4. You can have a weighted belt, put a 100-pound kettlebell on if you can, rep it out. Then you can do 2 sets of 12 to 17. And now when you're stimulating the myofibrillar hypertrophy, and then you bring in that back end with super high reps, you can stimulate sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. You start to stimulate the satellite cells, and all of a sudden, you're getting nice muscle mass size on the back of the tricep, but you're also dramatically improving your strength. And when you can improve the strength of the tricep, it's gonna transfer really, really well over to the athletic realm. All right, so my third favorite tricep movement when we're talking about athlete development and how to isolate our triceps to improve that athletic performance is gonna be on the cable. Okay, so we wanna use a cable machine, and I wanna get into an overhead position. So a couple things. I like to use something where I can put my butt up against this and I can get a little bit of lower back support. If you don't have a chair like this, a seated chair position, you can still use a standing cable, okay? You can still use that standing cable, and you just gotta do a little bit of more of a lean away with that upper body. That weight of leaning forward is gonna help you increase the load of the cable position, but it might take a little bit off of the triceps. What I wanna do here is I like to get into a position where I'm almost fully with my butt up against the bench, and I'm in this overhead position, okay? And so it's important to see, a lot of coaches will sit there and say, hey, I don't like to isolate. Well, I like to isolate because if I have somebody who is a bench presser, who's a thrower, and they're always sort of internally rotated, somebody like me who's been bench pressing since I was 11 years old, I might get into that internally rotated position. Think about wrestlers, they're in that same position. Now, if I have them or shot putters, if I'm training a shot putter and they have that lockout position in the snatch or the jerk, whatever it might be, and they tend to come forward, what's happening is their thoracic spine is not coordinating. You know, their rhomboids, their rear delts, their traps are not coordinating properly with their triceps. So if we can get into this position here where we have a slight overhead, now my T-spine is extended, or as extended as I can possibly make it. I lock it out, and this is gonna mimic that position we're in if we're trying to do a push press, if we're trying to do snatch, a jerk, whatever that might be. And it's also going to help lead to locking out military presses, doing dumbbell work. So I love to utilize this with, if I've got a weightlifter who tends to press out, okay, we're gonna hammer this. If I have a shot putter or discus thrower, they tend to lose stuff forward, we're gonna hammer this because it's going to help lead to that co-contraction in the shoulder. That's the key factor here. If you can train in isolation, you can slowly teach your body the skill of the co-contraction. Co-contraction is a skill that your body has to learn. And if you can just sort of educate your body with a simple movement like this, then when it gets to a higher speed, that's when it's gonna start to really, really transfer over to that sporting world. And that's the key factor here, is it's slowly educating your body through various different movements, and that's gonna increase your body's movement vocabulary. So one of the best ways to train our fast twitch fibers in our triceps is to actually pre-fatigue them. So if we can think about this from that physiological perspective, if we get a little bit of a perturbation, we get a little bit of fatigue, and then we rest, now all of a sudden our body has to respond physiologically. So our body has to think about how can we deal with stress and make ourselves adapt a little bit more effectively. So what I like to utilize is pre-fatigue, and we've done videos on pre-fatigue in the past. We can provide that down below in the description. You can click on the link and you can watch that after this video. But what I love is there's gonna be an exercise that I like to utilize here is the ghost face kickback. So this is an old broken band. Okay, so we take this band, and like we mentioned with the dips, a kickback is just a little tickle to the tricep. It's gonna fatigue it, but it's not gonna cause a ton of stress, but it's gonna fatigue it enough so that your body has to really start to recruit a lot of high threshold motor units without a huge load. Okay, so what I like to utilize with pre-fatigue is the isolation movement. So what we're thinking about with ghost face kickbacks, ideally, we just want movement from the tricep, okay? We just want that tricep here, get a little squeeze. That's the benefit with the band, is that we have to have more tension at the lockout, okay? Lots of tension here, and we wanna do 15, 17, 20 reps, okay? Hold in that lockout position. We're gonna get a nice little pump, and as you start to feel fatigue, let's say right now I'm starting to get a little bit of that pump. Yeah, that's good. I can start to feel my lateral head really start to blow up. Now, I'm gonna finish, and I'm gonna rest 30 to 60 seconds, okay? So we're gonna rest for about 30 to 60 seconds. We wanna let the body recover, start to feel a little bit better, the triceps start to feel a little bit better. Now, here's a big kicker. I'm out of breath, first of all, because isolation movements for some reason get me out of breath. But now, my tris are pre-fatigued. I'm gonna go on to a movement that I can have a much greater load. I'm gonna do a close grip bench. This is where the combo with pre-fatigue can blow up your triceps and can really carry over to that athletic realm because you're using a compound movement. So when I'm gonna get on the bench, my triceps are fatigued, but I get 40, 60 seconds recovery. That's enough to sort of stimulate to help me get through this set. And the adaptation period is going to be, all right, we gotta start to recruit a ton of high threshold motor units, and the load's not even that high. So it's actually gonna stimulate a ton of growth and a ton of strength without actually putting a ton of stress on your body. So one of the things I really like to do during pre-fatigue as well, take this off the rack, a little bit slower eccentric, okay? Up fast. A little slower eccentric, up fast. And now what happens, because we're fast twitch that we're focusing on, now the speed will carry over to that athletic realm. One more, nice and slow. Stimulate some growth. Boom. So that's a big key factor with those compound movements, especially when we're talking about elbow extenders with the triceps. Now it's gonna help coordinate with our shoulders as well. So utilize an isolation movement with a compound movement. When you're doing the compound movement on faster twitch groups, like the triceps, stimulate with a little bit slower eccentric, drive through that concentric portion as rapidly as you possibly can. So utilize all 5 of these movements. Make sure that you're doing the right thing when we're talking about pre-fatigue. You got that isolation movement, you got that compound movement. Understand, especially with the triceps, when you're doing a fast twitch muscle group, when you're training a fast twitch muscle group, try to use a little bit slower eccentric, rapid contraction on the concentric portion. So we put all these exercises together in our Bis and Tris 1 and Bis and Tris 2 book that's available. You can click on the link down below in the description. Head over to GarageStrength.com. You can pick up both of those books. They're filled with a ton of information, a ton of knowledge behind Bis and Tris and how we utilize bicep and tricep training to increase strength, to increase mass, and also to increase sports performance. If you want more information about tricep and bicep based training, you can click on this card right here. Until next time, guys, peace.